Hello again, Michael Ware with IFC's Warrior Wednesday. We have with us Pete Eisentrager from the Midway USA Foundation. I did get your name correct, did I?
Nailed it, Michael. Nailed it.
Fantastic. We love that. We are privileged to have Pete on here today. This is something, frankly, I'm going to learn a lot about. A lot of times when I have on guests, I either know what they're going to say or have a pretty good idea what they're going to be about. And that is true of the Midway USA Foundation. But I will tell you, this is going to be a learning venture for me too, because there are some fantastic things here that we're going to be able to explore that I really want to know about, and I know that you need to know about. So we're pleased that IFC has a fantastic group of trusted partners. If you type in Iowa and FC or Iowa Firearms Coalition on the internet in your browser, you'll be able to navigate to our site. We would appreciate you doing that. And we have trusted partners that have discount codes, tangible goods, all kinds of things that they offer you when you're an IFC member. The only way that this program works is with those people supporting us and you patronizing them. So, as always, we want you to spend money with the people that spend money with you. Take care of your partners because they're taking care of you. Utilize those people first. And as always, like and subscribe, share this around. We would appreciate and value the circulation. Thank you for that. So without any further ado, let's hand this over to Pete Eisentrager with the Midway USA Foundation. You can find that. Social media is cracking down on us. They won't let us give website domains anymore, especially if there are pictures of firearms and other things like that on them. So if you type in Midway and USA and Foundation, I am confident you will navigate to the right place. So with that, Pete, tell us what the Midway USA Foundation is. Give us the history of the provenance. What's going on here?
Yeah, no. So just first things first, Michael, thanks for having us on and giving us the opportunity to kind of share what the Midway USA Foundation does to support youth shooting sports around the country, quite honestly. So for your listeners or supporters that aren't familiar, Midway USA Foundation was started back in 2007 and was kind of the brainchild of Larry and Brenda Potterfield, who are also the owners and founders of Midway USA, which is an online retailer that most people in the shooting sports world are familiar with. But back in 2007, Larry and Brenda saw an opportunity to really support and build a foundation that truly does support the long-term funding for youth shooting sports and the teams around the country. Most people are aware, unlike traditional sports, there's really no one that's backing or financially supporting youth shooting sports because, as you mentioned a second ago, there's youth and firearms involved in the same sentence, right? And that just creates a roadblock. So Larry and Brenda created this foundation basically to create opportunities and fundraising mechanisms that youth shooting teams around the country can utilize to, and in turn, send a portion of that money back to the foundation. And really what the foundation does, Michael, is each of these teams, we support right around 2,600 teams currently. They have set up an individual endowment for each team individually. So they go out within their individual communities. They can use our suite of fundraising services. They can raise money on their own, and they send a portion of that money back to their endowment here at the foundation. What's unique about us is we match those team donations 1-to-1. So if a team sends $100 back, we make it $200. You send $1,000 back, we make it $2,000. So that's an unrestricted 1-to-1 match, which is pretty unique. And that money just goes into their individual endowment accounts, and we hold it there. And basically the teams are accessing that funding annually to pull a team cash grant. So just like any other endowment that might be set up for like a library or a hospital, a university, where a portion of that funding is pulled back annually for operational costs. And that's exactly what the foundation does. So these teams continue to build their funds over the course of the years. And then annually, either in June or December, they're choosing which one of those two cycles, and they're pulling a 5% operational cash grant that allows their team to reduce the cost of shells, travel, entry fees, supplies, you name it, anything that goes into these kids competitively shooting around the country. We're just helping to lighten that burden a little bit. So that's the primary objective of the foundation, is really to create that sustainable funding mechanism for teams to participate in perpetuity, right? On top of that, we've got a couple other I guess, layers of opportunities that we built out over the years. We have a range grant development fund that's also available to any of our teams that hold an endowment. We send out about $250,000 a year for coach training all around the country. Again, we can't have teams if we don't have coaches, right? So we're kind of trying to build those building blocks out to really support the whole umbrella of youth shooting sports. Coaches, ranges, teams, obviously what drives those ships. So it's kind of a 10,000-foot view, of what we do at the foundation. We do have some other services that we make available to all of the teams that do hold endowments with us. And really what it is, it's a suite of fundraising opportunities, right? We understand that raffle tickets don't necessarily work in every community in the country. So we've kind of tried to create a menu of opportunities that teams can get involved in and kind of pick and choose what works best for their communities, for their teams and their local networks to really maximize fundraising. So we've got what we refer to as product grant fundraising, but we've got partners from all over the industry that provide us with their products. We put those on our website free of charge for the teams, and they go out and they submit a grant request. They get those products for 9 months free of charge to take back to their communities and raise funds however they want to. The only thing we ask is a portion of those proceeds do come back to their endowment. Some teams send 100% of the money raised back. Some teams keep a portion of it, in their bank account to use for operational costs and reduce that burden immediately while still building up their endowment. So really just a whole range of opportunities for teams to kind of pick and choose and piece together how they want to kind of help build their endowment and again, sustain long-term funding for their teams. So
wow.
That in a nutshell is what we do, right? That's a lot of information thrown at you. So.
Okay, so let's zoom out here for just a second.
Yep.
Let's do it for example. For example, I am I'm a new coach with a new team. I've got trap shooters, I got action shooters, I've got all kinds of people doing a little bit here and a little bit there, and I want to get this thing set up. So in order for me to wrap my mind around this, I'm going to obviously navigate to the MidwayUSA Foundation .org, and I'm going to follow the steps to get set up. Then I'm going to fundraise myself, okay, or in the community, the students, the competitors, whatever else, the team members, parents, community members, all kinds of things. And let's say that we raise $1,000.
Yep.
And I'm going to send that to the foundation to put in an account, which we're calling an endowment for us, for this team, this club.
That particular team, correct? Yep.
Okay, so I've got $1,000 I've raised right here. I sent it to MidwayUSA Foundation. You make that $1,000 into $2,000 immediately, and that money is sitting in that endowment pot. So correct. What? And not only that, but you said that it'll earn interest. There'll be a 5% on top of that.
Correct. So that's not necessarily 5%. So that's kind of the power of an established endowment, right? Is we're taking. So I said earlier we had about 2,600 teams. So each of those teams have a separate endowment account that have, again, we'll use examples here, anywhere from $1 up to $2 million, right? All of that money is combined kind of in one investment pool per se. So we work with Goldman Sachs on the back end. So we're taking all of the funding, putting into one pool. All of that is invested into the marketplace. So power of scale of economics, right? More money, more interest earned. That being said, each team has their individual account. So say Michael's team had $2,000 in their account. Quarterly, when we get those interest or earnings back from Goldman Sachs, we prorate that out accordingly, and you would get your portion of the investment earnings based on $2,000 of investment would get put back into your account quarterly. Yep. So you're gaining interest, even if you're not putting additional funds in there, as long as the stock market's performing correct. So, yeah.
Well, let's say that there's $0. I'm glad that you're endeavoring to grow the pot beyond the $1 for dollar match. So let's go back to easy numbers. We raised $1,000 and sent it in. You put $1,000 with it. Now there's $2,000 sitting there. What can be done with the $2,000 that sits there?
So that's where it goes into, once you hit that $2,000 mark, a team is eligible to draw that annual team cash grant. And so they pick one of the two cycles, either in the June cycle or the December cycle. Fill out a basic grant request. We make it simple because this is your money, right? But we do have to check some legal boxes because we are a charitable gifting foundation. But once you apply for that cash grant, you pull 5% of whatever your endowment balance is back to use for operational funds. So, the $2,000 mark, you're looking at pulling $50, give or take, right? Not huge, but when we have teams that start to get to the $50,000, $100,000, $500,000 mark, that 5% is a substantial amount to go to operational, offset operational funding. So the bigger the endowment growth, the bigger that 5% grows on an annual basis. So,
and that's just for the things those are consumables and whatever else that you come across from time to time. What happens in a case where I'm able to get a piece of ground that I buy or lease, and I actually want to build a range, or I have range improvements, or I've got throwers that are aging and I need to buy new ones? Are there opportunities there? How does that work?
Yeah, no, great question. It would be separate from the 5% annual team cash grant, right? That grant does have some restrictions. We don't purchase property. We don't build buildings with that. It is truly meant to offset the cost of kids or operational funding. So again, like I said earlier, ammunition for the team, targets for the teams, entry fees for tournaments or competitions, jerseys, stuff like that, stuff that's actually going to get the kids on the field pulling triggers and competing. From a range grant, I guess logistics standpoint, or building on into that ancillary stuff, we do have a separate grant available for range development improvements. Again, there's some stipulations there. We do not purchase property. Again, that's got to be done ahead of time. We typically don't build out brand new projects from the ground up. What we try to do is support, implement, or improve projects that are already in place. You touched thrower upgrades. We do a lot of like bathroom facilities upgrades on existing clubhouses that are outdated, ADA compliancy, concrete work on the ranges if there's concrete that's broken up over the years, lighting, stuff like that. It's really building on top of an existing location that just needs additional support or improvements made on it. So,
okay. All right. The reason that I'm asking specifically, traveling around quite a bit, I see ranges that are established, either that or they're relatively primitive, and they need technology or they need a facelift, or as you say, nothing is new forever. They may need some help. So you have a separate grant pathway for things like that?
Absolutely. Yep. We call it range development grant. One of the pre-qualifiers for that is and number one, the range has to support a youth shooting sports team that has a Midway USA endowment, right? So that's kind of the first caveat. Then after that, we fund up to $75,000 per project, and we do require matching funds for that. So say you had a $150,000 project, we potentially fund half of that, and then the team would work outside to obviously raise those funds elsewhere, get in-kind services, donations. Pretty typical of any other kind of grant funding opportunities that may be available. So everybody's got to put a little skin in the game on your end, and then we support it on the back end as well. So
any other kind of grant avenues or any other funding mechanisms or items that we should know about?
I touched on earlier, we also have a coach training program that's available, and that we see that as being a crucial component, obviously, making sure that these youth athletes have the right mentors there that have the skill sets, the learned objectives to really make these kids better shooters. So we do about $250,000 a year as well for specifically coach training programs. That's a little different. Aside from the 2,600 team endowments I mentioned earlier, we also have 93 state and national organizations that are kind of partners that support youth shooting sports. An example of that is like USA Shooting or Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation. So they also have some endowments set up strictly to help, offset the costs of running those organizations as well too. That coach training grant has to be applied for by one of those organizations. So the individual teams per se don't apply for that coach training as much as the parent organizations do. And then they're kind of facilitating, the training of their coaches or their mentors and volunteers specific to that organization. So.
Fantastic. Okay, so when we started out our conversation offline the other day, we talked about some Iowa numbers. Now, granted, there are a lot of people who listen to this and watch this that are from outside the Iowa area. But when you sent over an email to me that basically said Iowa stats. Now, I'm going to share that screen here, but these are, Pete, these are staggering numbers, dude. I mean, this is, I'd like to walk through that if you're able.
Absolutely, Michael. That's the beauty of what we do, right? Like Iowa is just one of 50 examples of the cool impact that this foundation is making to get kids shooting all across the country, and Iowa is a shining example of it. So,
okay, so I don't know if you can see this screen very well. I've tried to blow this up so that I can get it all in one spot here, but it says the number of Iowa team endowments, and this is as of what, just a month or two ago or thereabouts?
I believe it is April 30th. I believe is when we last updated these, Michael. Yep.
Okay, 152 Iowa team endowments, total endowment balance for Iowa teams, and this is unbelievable. Total endowment balance for Iowa teams, 14 million with an M, $553,193. That at 5%, that's a lot of scratch.
It's a big number coming back to teams, and that's the power of the scale of economics right there, right? And it's a varying mix of where those account balances are within those 152 teams, but they're all drawing some sort of operational funding back off of it.
So I'm looking at the first bullet point here. Total dollars paid to Iowa teams through cash grants.
Yep.
$4,798,557.
Yep. So that's since the first team in Iowa endowment was established, right? So we're probably looking back 2009 timeframe, but yeah, looking about $5 million over the course of the timeframe that Iowa teams have been participating.
Total dollars paid to Iowa organizations through cash grants, $483,401.
Yep, and that goes back to I guess not the shooting teams, but the state or national organizations. We do have two within the state of Iowa that hold endowments. One is Iowa's SETP. They're the largest of the two, and then we also have the Cresco Wildlife Club also has a smaller endowment. But yeah, those parent organizations are also pulled close to about $500,000 in funding.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So those organizations are what? Those aren't actually teams. Those would be considered what? Not-for-profit orgs that support?
Yep. So Iowa SETP is an extension of SETP, which is a parent organization. It's Scholastic Clay and Track Program. It's the shotgun side of the Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation, which is probably one of the top two largest parent organizations in the country for youth shooting sports. So,
man, I'm thinking IFC has a sister organization. IFC is a C4, and we do a lot of political work, obviously. But we have our sister organization, which is completely charitable. That's the C3, and it's the Iowa Outdoor Alliance. I'm wondering if maybe they should be doing this kind of thing, because the long-term goal for them is to either build up, buy, or help ranges grow the whole 9 yards. I wonder if that's something that I should delve into more heavily and visit with you about.
Absolutely. And if anyone wanted to jump to our website that you'd mentioned earlier, under kind of the other resources and grants opportunities, it breaks down kind of the donor designated opportunities. We do have other funding mechanisms available for organizations that want to get involved. Even if youth shooting sports isn't their primary scope of focus, if a portion of that is, we can work with them to establish an endowment that does specifically address the needs of youth shooting sports in their area or their state. Absolutely. So,
okay, so I'm looking on the side again. I put it up here, and that's under agency endowments, that kind of thing?
Correct, yep. So an agency endowment, if you were kind of to scroll down that page on the website, what an agency endowment really is one of those organizations, and their primary focus is youth shooting sports. That is what they do, is youth shooting sports. The right-hand side of that screen over there talked about the donor designated, I believe, endowments as well.
Yeah.
What those are other agencies. If you scroll down, like Ducks Unlimited might be on the list, or Pheasants Forever.
Yeah.
They are organizations that are overarching. Their goal is wildlife conservation, but they have a portion that is dedicated to youth shooting sports. So it's not their primary focus, but youth shooting sports is still an important facet of what they do. So that's kind of the two. That's what I guess delineates the two between an agency and a donor designated.
Wow.
So agency is primarily focused on youth shooting sports support, and the donor designated, they have other priorities, but youth shooting sports falls under their umbrella as well. So.
Okay. Fantastic. I'm glad we talked about that. Okay. I'll go back to the Iowa specific stats.
Mm-hmm.
And so total dollars provided to any Iowa range since 2021, $626,783.07. 20 team recipients overall.
And that number has just changed in the last 10 days too, because we just wrapped up our 2026 range grant development cycle. So there's some Iowa ranges that in the last 10 days just got a notice that they were awarded funding for this year's current projects as well too. So those numbers.
Oh yeah, one of them's one of our board members, Nathan Gibson, is part of. I think it's I-35 Shooting Sports.
Yeah, I-35. Yep.
That was 70. Am I right? $75,000.
Yep. They were one of the top $75,000 matches that we made. Correct.
Man alive, that's a lot of money. That's going to do quite a bit of work. Go ahead.
No, Iowa's had some, and it's sad that we've had to invest some of the money in Iowa that we have in the last 3 or 4 years, Michael, but because of the floods that have happened on both sides of the state in the last 5 or 6, you guys have had some shooting ranges that have been absolutely wiped off the map. So while it's sad to see that happen, it's been super positive and beneficial for us to be able to be, I guess, on the back end of helping them get those ranges reestablished. Gilbert Shooting Sports up in north of Des Moines was one. They lost their range, I guess, mid-season 2 years ago, right? They just lost funding through the range they were at halfway through the season. We were able to step in. They found a local family, the Hill family, that had a farm in the area, and in the last 3 years, we've established a world-class shooting facility up there in Gilbert too that was non-existent 3 years ago.
It's unbelievable. Well,
some
people
awesome
don't understand
in the state. So,
well, you hit on something that I don't think very many people think about. Every one of these states is different in terms of its climate and topography.
right.
But in Iowa, a lot of ranges are located in that low valley area between hills or something like that, and which makes it a natural spot to place a range.
Yep.
But the reality is, just what you said, when you get gully washer rains, it comes down through those valleys and moves through, and it takes dirt with it. And
Yep.
sometimes you come out to the range after some serious rain and flooding, and you're like, I'm missing things. There are entire portions of my range complex that are either destroyed, have to be rebuilt, or in that case, it was gone. I mean, or a couple of these places I've seen pictures of. I don't know specifically about Gilbert, but I know some of them have posted pictures, and I mean, they're decimated.
Yep.
They absolutely have to be rebuilt.
Literally wiped off the map. We had a story, and it might have been the I-35 Shooting Sports. I mean, their entire clubhouse range was washed into the river. Their gun safe was found, I think, 800 or 900 yards off the property. I mean, it washed the gun safe down the river. So yeah, I mean, it's devastating. So it's also beautiful to see the rebirth and the reconstruction that communities jump on board and get these ranges put right back in place, because they do know the impact that it makes, not only for the youth of the community, but the community at large, right? So, from devastation to blooming, it's cool to see that transition take place and to have a small hand in bringing those ranges back online. So.
And then the last bullet point there is the total coach training grant dollars provided to any Iowa org since 2021 is $25,000. So I get the sense, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm wowed by some very big numbers on this page, of course, but that looks a little light. Are coaches not going in for the training that they ought to be as often as they should?
That's probably got more to do just with those parent organizations really developing a plan or submitting grant funding opportunities for it. I wouldn't necessarily say that speaks to the training coaches are getting in the state. It's just Iowa CTP is taking advantage of it and reducing the cost. They're training their coaches anyway. up there in the state. The SCTP's got a phenomenal coach training program in place already. We're just helping supplement some other opportunities for their coaches here. So it does look a little light compared to some of the other numbers, but you got to think of that as a kind of break it down. $25,000 when you put it into the educational component of a lot of coaches get trained for $25,000. That's it's not as big a lift as it would be to build a range or something like that when you're talking dollar to dollar spend. You know,
no doubt about it.
A couple $100 to attend a 2-day session on a weekend or whatever it is. So it's still very impactful to see that number. So
I'm going to move back over to the and share the screen for how to start a team endowment. We spoke a little bit about this. I probably shouldn't jump so quickly. Was there anything regarding any of that Iowa stuff or the Iowa specific stats that we want to talk about that we didn't?
No, I would just I would preface it to say that those are big numbers, right? But half of those numbers that you saw that were raised in those local Iowa communities. So I said it a little bit. It's really kind of us partnering with the teams. Teams put skin in the game. We are here to be that supporting match on the back end. So yeah, awesome work in the state of Iowa. It's one of my personal favorite states to go and visit when I'm out making the rounds every year, because from north to south, east to west, that community of youth shooting sports is across the entire state. It's just cool to see. Like I said, they're kind of a beacon of hope for some of the other states to what could be done if the state and the local communities partner together, and that's exactly what's happening in Iowa. So the state DNR is partnering with all these local teams, and they've created a pretty awesome scenario for kids to compete on the ranges all over the state. So
my daughter competes or participates with the local shooting club. Now she shoots SASP, so she's shooting rimfire pistol and rimfire rifle, that kind of thing. But part of her team is shooting SCTP, and I don't know when this recording will air. But actually, it will date us just a little bit. But going into this right now, I'm looking on my app where the local shooting sports, Baxter Shooting Sports rather, organizes all this stuff. And I'm looking at what they're going to be doing this week. State intermediate singles, intermediate handicaps, senior doubles, senior singles. They've got all this stuff lined out on their counter because they're taking a whole bunch of youth competitive shooters up there. And there's going to be thousands of kids there. Right? And I don't think that people, I mean, there are some people listening to this that have been there, they've seen it, they've experienced, and the wow associated with this mile-long line of places to shoot, you know what I mean? But the reality is people don't understand just how big this has become. I mean, SCTP in Iowa is a monster thing. It is enormous. When you've got 3,000, maybe 4,000 competitors, all the parents and friends and relatives, whatever, coming to see it, you what is it, 15 or 18,000 people will walk through there in about 4 days.
Yep, it's pretty impressive, and that's just one of state shoots that are happening all over the country in the coming weeks, right? With the same impact. So all leading up to what is the National Shoot in July out in Marengo, Ohio. You know, and I'm going to be remiss. I'm going to get this wrong, but I mean, there's 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 competitors out there. Close to 1 million claybirds will get thrown during that week for the SCTP Nationals. So, yeah, man, it's crazy big, and we could get into this, right? I think we chatted pre-interview. I was a competitive athlete, played at a collegiate level on a traditional ball sport type. It's not for everybody, right? There's not opportunities for every kid to play at that level of athletics, and it's more and more competitive. That, you know, every year it gets tougher and tougher. Youth shooting sports is for everybody. I mean, I've seen it firsthand. You can walk out. It doesn't matter if you're athletic, non-athletic. You might have some sort of, you know, physical challenge that you're dealing with. Everyone can compete on a shooting line, and it's a lifetime sport, Michael. And that's really kind of hit home for me over the last 2 years being here at the foundation. I didn't see that coming from the world I came from, and, you know, high level collegiate soccer. The last thing I did was want to congratulate somebody for beating us on a soccer team ever. Like, they were my enemy. I see these kids all over the country high-fiving each other for like getting their first 25 or shooting their first X and air, whatever it is. It's like, they're competition, but they're here to support each other too. And man, I think it's one of the highlights of what youth shooting sports provides our country that is a miss in a lot of communities, man, for what it's doing for these youth athletes, building their confidence, building their resiliency, really putting them in a team atmosphere. I'm not sure there's another sport on the planet that does it at the level that youth shooting sports does. So,
You know, I think you're right about that. Now, we need to back up for a second. You said you played soccer. I guess I don't know what that is. I mean,
don't hold it against me, you know.
I just for everybody's edification, I gave him a ration of I gave him the business over that when we talked on the phone last week. I'm like, soccer? I don't even like to hear SOCCER all arranged as letters together, but I'm just kidding. But the reality is, and we did talk about this briefly, but just so everybody understands, there are a lot of teams that are not unlike the team that my daughter's on. You've got 12-year-old kids, girls and boys together, all the way up through 18 in this club. This club is, yes, it's Baxter Shooting Sports as an example, but it's not something that the local school claims, so to speak, although it is scholastic, right? So you've got kids there that are homeschooled, public schooled, you name it. They are helping each other. They are laughing and joking with one another. There's camaraderie there. And last year, so this is the second year that our families participated, right? But there's some students and some scholastic athletes that have been doing this for a number of years. So we went to our first banquet, Pete, and there was one of the local team parents and some board members were kind enough to hold it out their farm. The place was all mowed up. We had a fantastic day. It wasn't blazing hot, nice breeze through there, grilling and whatnot's going on. It was absolutely fabulous. It was picturesque, right? And I was just so happy with the day and what the kids had done. But what I realized at that banquet was by that time in the normal year of organized sports, let's say that it's softball or basketball, football, volleyball, whatever, so it wouldn't make any difference. There would probably be blood and hair on the court by then, you know what I mean?
Right.
On the same side of the line. So sometimes these things can get ultra competitive to the point where they're not very healthy, or kids backbite each other, or parents do this, or they're unhappy with the coaches or the refs. It doesn't make any difference. There's always something going on there. That's very good, but there's some negative too. I haven't seen that here. I haven't witnessed that. I witnessed a group of kids that are competing against one another, but competing against others, and they're encouraging each other to do well. They're delighting in the other one's successes. It's unlike anything that I've seen at this age. And it's so far, I will tell you, Pete, it's been a super healthy environment. I have absolutely loved being part of it, cheering, going to these meets, teaching other teams how to cheer because they're not nearly as loud as me, and they're out of their comfort zone a little bit. So now they've got, this guy over here, the guy that looks like Santa Claus, is cheering loud. Now we got to cheer loud. And we were going to these meets, Pete, and it was dead silent except for beep, that kind of stuff, and some recording of times and lots of bangs, right? Well, now there's people out there cheering on these athletes and cheering other teams. I mean, when I'm there and I hear a kid whiz through something pretty quick, I'll turn my head. I'll be like, hey, that's all right, Yeah, and you're like, this is fantastic. So for me and for the students, the other parents, the officials, it's been fantastic. I love it. I couldn't recommend it any higher.
Absolutely. And what you just described is what I have literally seen all over the country in the last 2 years, Michael. There's bad apples that pop up, right? But it is so few and far between compared to the traditional sports background that I came from. It's quite honestly, it's super inspiring to see. And it's a group of kids, again, I mean, I can't say this, they might not have had an opportunity to be in that team environment in any other sport, right? Because they wouldn't have made the starting lineup. They're never going to get off the bench. Every kid on a shooting team participates. That's the beauty of it. Like, they're all going to get to the line. They're all going to get to shoot their 25 birds, or shoot their round to air rifle or air pistol, SASP. It is what they're all participating. I think that's the beauty of it. We could get a little in the weeds here too. I know we discussed the foundation actually received a multi-state conservation grant award in 2025, and that's federal grant funding. But what we really wanted to focus our research on was the real impact that youth shooting sports has on kids in our country. We've heard it. There's been a lot of stuff thrown around. You know, it builds the confidence, it builds the resiliency, but there hasn't been any real research done on it in probably close to 15 to 20 years. So we tried to tackle that beast. We learned some stuff. We still have a lot of digging to do, right? But what was super positive out of this is one of the I guess pieces of this research was based on the social and psychological impacts of participating in youth shooting sports for kids. And the numbers we saw come back are staggering. And I can share that after the fact if you want to push it out. But kids' confidence in shooting sports is higher than other sports. Their self-clarity is higher than other sports. Their ability to overcome challenges, they report that they handle that better. Pretty much across the board, kids that participate in youth shooting sports ranked their ability to handle some of these challenges higher than kids that are participating in traditional ball sports. And that was pretty eye-opening for us. So
Wow.
It's not just side speak coming out of our mouth. These kids are validating what we are saying. Youth shooting sports is an opportunity for them to really build their self-confidence, their maturity level, and handle challenge, unlike other sports. So it's good information to see, and we're scratching the surface of it. So,
you know, when I talk with other people about this, and we go to church and we share with these folks and you relatives and whatever else, it's interesting. You know what I hear every single time, and it's universal, and this isn't going to surprise you, but let's say I'll use my buddy Glenn as an example, and we talk, oh, your daughter's doing this. I'm like, oh yeah, she did well. She had a bunch of team members that everybody increased their times this year. Every single one of these kids got better, and it was really, really great to see it and to watch them delight on these things. And they all say this: I wish that they had that when I was a kid. They all say it. Every single person I talk to says that. That sounds fantastic. I wish they'd had that around when I was a pup.
Yep. If I would have, Michael, I would have not played soccer and some of those other sports, right? I mean, since I was 4, I've been out in the field hunting, fishing. Like, that is my passion, right? But youth shooting sports was not a thing. I was kind of forced to other avenues. We shot trap, we did stuff, but never in an organized fashion. And I don't want to say it would have. Be curious to see how my life would have changed if if that would have been an opportunity as a kid, like what opportunities it would have presented. But I'm glad the kids have it now, and I'm glad I can do a little piece to kind of support what's happening in our country's soil right now. So
that's amazing stuff. Okay, so what things have we not touched on that we want to convey to people? Because again, one of the primary reasons that I wanted to have you on is so that people understood what the Midway USA, the Potterfields, are doing here, what they've set up, but Midway USA's foundation, the opportunities, and an example of how to get up and get started, what you can expect, what you could look forward to, but any best practices that go along with that. And I would like to get this linked up with another video that we want to put together, that I want to sandwich either this one and that one back to back somehow, because I'd like to have some people on that will talk about best practice to set up your club. Here's how you do it. Here's how to foundationally organize yourself to keep the ball going and keep the ball bouncing. And the reason I say that is, as you know, Pete, most of the time, these shooting clubs are born of enthusiastic parents that help organize and or coach or both. And then when their kids go through the program, some of them stay, but some of them go. They're like, okay, we've done that bit. I want to hand this over to the next group of folks.
Absolutely.
And you've got to build these organizations foundationally so that they can be easily handed over and it doesn't get lost in translation in the shuffle. So we want to hit on that right down to the specifics of here's where I go to get my employee identification number. Here's what I do to set this up. I can find articles of organization over here. This is the best practice for what I do with a bank account. These are bylaws. These are the best ways to keep this thing going. This is how we do this and that. So if we have those components, the people will either be able to build strong clubs or enhance their club so that they're stronger between those kinds of organizing principles and the things that Midway USA is doing to help them foundationally with their money and how they spend it and how they build it. So knowing that, are there things that we should be talking about that we haven't yet?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, Michael, it's one of the big challenges we face as a foundation that you spoke to is the majority of these organizations, aside from like the parent portions of it, they're run by volunteers, right? Parents, community members. Um, and what we see is about a 3-year turnover to exactly what you said. Their kids are in it for that small window of time. And as soon as their kid's out, the parent transitions out too, and we see a loss of transfer of knowledge a lot of times, and we're literally as a foundation having to recreate the wheel, reach back out, just make that initial connection, because now Michael has stepped in as the coach, right? Like you're filling shoes. If that knowledge wasn't transferred, we're starting from scratch again. So we've got to train Michael about what the foundation does, explain how the grants work, explain how the funding works. We're losing ground every time that happens. So it's one of the things as a foundation we're really trying to develop is I guess that toolkit, for lack of a better word, that is just here's the step-by-step procedures. If you're trying to start a team from step one, or if you're stepping in as a new volunteer to an already established organization, how do we reduce that learning curve? We can do some of it from a foundation standpoint, but quite honestly, a lot of that falls back on the clubs, the teams, and the programs. Really making that ingrained in their culture, right? If they know they're going to have turnover, volunteers are leaving, kind of developing that tool to transition. I don't know, a binder, right, of all the resources. Here's your banks. Here's your your tax ID number. Run down the gamut, but make that an easy transition. We are kind of trying to formulate some of that on the back end, so we can provide those educational components. You'd alluded to some other partners, and I'll say it because we're all in this fight together. NRA already has a very well-established program for any community that wants to stand up a team, right? Like here's the steps you get. Establishing that nonprofit status is key to having an endowment here in the foundation. So there are some basic legal parameters that we could kind of help break those barriers down, and we are working on that, Michael. So
fantastic.
I wish I could tell you it was on the website and we could share it now, but this time next year, I would like to say that we'll have a pretty robust resource available for anybody, whether you're, new volunteer or standing a program up, that there'll be a resource there to kind of get you on that track. So.
Well, the beauty of this is when I look across these things, and you may be doing this, I may be putting the cart ahead of the horse, or maybe that's something you need to consider or others. But the truth of the matter is these clubs pretty much all need the same template. They need the same things. There are going to be nuances, the things
Right.
that they tweak here and there, but they all need to organize themselves basically and well. So if that's articles of organization and bylaws, at least at a starting off point,
Yep.
You could just about cookie cutter that stuff in order to begin. They all need somebody to help them submit their data and their application so that the IRS recognizes them as probably, in most cases, a 501c3, probably.
Yep.
Okay. So they need that. So they need a little bit of legal work or somebody to submit that. Now you can do it yourself, and it's not that big a deal. But the application, I'll admit, having looked through them and then told a lawyer to go do it,
Right.
having looked through them, it's laborious. I mean, it's
challenging if you're not familiar with
Yeah.
that process. It's federal. It's federal paperwork.
yeah. So you need somebody to help you with that, or need a way to maneuver that. Then you've got to go online if you choose to do it that way and fill out that SS4 document to get an employee identification number. You're going to have to tie that to an individual to kick things off. So just know that's part of it. But they all need these basic things. And then, you need a bank account. How do you set that up?
Yep.
How do you set up your board of directors? How are you going to keep these basic documents around rather than in somebody's desk? And then that person dies or quits, or as you said, they handled that 12 years ago and they haven't been a team coach for 4 years.
Right.
They moved to South Carolina. I don't even know how to get a hold of them. Well, maybe it's time to add a Dropbox folder or maybe some Google Docs or whatever it may be, so that you can have access to these things as a board of directors, so that you can keep your documents with you or as the team progresses. I mean, there are best practices we can put in place and the basic items here, but they're all pretty much going to need the same things in order to get up and going and keep going. And I think that there are ways that we can help teams do that so they can organize properly and remain organized.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I just wish I had the magic button to press to make it simple for everybody, Michael.
Well, okay. Well, I believe you, and I sense in your heart that you mean that just as I do, Pete, and that's fantastic. And someday we're going to have that in place, and I'd like to think that it'll be very soon. But the reality is, if you look at what the Midway USA Foundation has done, it's absolutely monumental. And it started with an idea, and then some effort, and then I'm sure some tweaks here and there to enhance it and make it better and improve it and circulate it. So it's like anything. Rome wasn't built in a day. We're going to keep working at it, and we're going to keep seeing these fantastic things be done with others as the beneficiaries. I mean, this is not much different if you think about it like this than discipling. This isn't much different than sharing the gospel. You know what I'm saying? You're sharing this beauty, you're sharing this value, but it's really not for you. It's for them, but you delight in doing it.
We delight in doing it, and it's something that as the executive director, it's an honor. But we've got a pretty small but mighty team around here. You know, there's 17 employees at this foundation. But if you met any of the 17, the passion that each one of these team members has for not only the young kids that are participating, but just the shooting sports in general, you would see that not only is our heart in it, but it's what we are all most passionate about. So we're all pretty privileged to be working under this logo and for this foundation, Michael. And I'm not just saying that as the boss. It's an awesome place to work with people that are extremely passionate about furthering youth shooting sports in our country. So,
okay, this has been a great conversation. This has been helpful. This is exactly what I wanted to record and offer others. And I ask this a lot in these interviews, but what are we not talking about here that we had ought to be? What questions, Pete, and we got Pete Eisentrager here from the Midway USA Foundation. What am I not asking that I had ought to be?
Well, what I'd close with is really, if there's anyone out there, whether it's Iowa, any of the other states, you know, that is hearing this, if you are interested in getting a team to stood up in your community, or you're already involved in a team and you need a little bit of assistance, reach out to us. Some of the stuff we just talked about, we are experts in this field, so we can answer some of those questions, even if there's not a digital resource available. We are here to provide guidance on any front we can. Even if you don't establish an endowment with the foundation, at the end of the day, we're here to support anyone that is supporting youth shooting sports. So just reach out to us. We're here to help. We'd love to partner where we can. We just want to change the future of youth shooting sports, Michael. That's what our mission is, and we live by it. So anything we can do to help it, that's what the foundation was established for. So
fantastic. So everybody out there listening, you'll be able to navigate by typing in Midway USA and the word foundation, and I'm confident you'll end up with a place that says .org at the end, and you can start right there. The website is well laid out. It's easy, it's simple, everything's bullet pointed pretty much. And if there are any questions, you can go right through there. You can search, which I did too, and I looked down through a lot of the stuff just by doing that. But you'll be able to get a hold of them and see if you can make sense of all this, and they'll walk you through it, I'm sure. Anything else, or are we good to go?
I do want one little sales pitch for you for the state of Iowa. We do host some cool events that are strictly like a fundraising one-day event, but we've got it's a series of sporting clay shoots. We call it Day of Clays, and Iowa holds one of our Day of Clays events. So this September will be an opportunity. Anybody that's got a team in Iowa, surrounding states, it's $200 per shooter, so $800 for a team of 4. 100% of that registration fee goes back to your team endowment, and then it's matched 1-to-1. So you put a team of 4 in for $800, it's $1,600 back to your team. You're basically paying yourself to come shoot some flying pottery with scatter guns for the day.
Wow, yeah, that's smart.
So it's a cool opportunity, and it's a little different than most of those fundraising. You're literally 100% of the funding is going back to the team endowment. So I believe it's September 19th is the day of the shoot. Down in Oskaloosa. So anybody that's interested, there's stuff on our website there. If you want to get a team involved in Iowa, I would encourage you to sign up now. It fills up pretty quickly. So
fantastic. Okay, we'll do that. Again, Pete, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, everybody. Pete Eisentrager for the Midway USA Foundation. We're going to spread this word far and wide, and I have no doubt it's highly likely that we'll need you to come back on the future as we update some of these things and as we see these changes and these enhancements come out. Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely, sir. It would be my honor. So
thank you. I appreciate it very much. Off we go.
Thanks for having us.